The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
What's working on purpose anyway? Each week, we ponder the answer to this question. People ache for meaning and purpose at work, to contribute their talents passionately and know their lives really matter. They crave being part of an organization that inspires them and helps them grow into realizing their highest potential. Business can be such a force for good in the world, elevating humanity. In our program, we provide guidance and inspiration to help usher in this world we all want, working on purpose. Now, here's your host, Dr. Elise Cortez.
Welcome back to the Working on Purpose program. Thanks for tuning in again this week. Great to have you. I'm your host, Dr. Elise Cortez, joining you live from Dallas, which is home base for me. If you don't know me yet, I'm a management consultant specializing in meaning and purpose, organizational logotherapist, inspirational speaker, social scientist, and author. My team and I help companies to discover and articulate their purpose to thread it through culture and operations. We work with forward-thinking or forward-reaching organizations to develop inspirational leaders who create cultures where people actually want to come to work and do their best. And we provide programs that enable individual team members and leaders to discover and unleash their passion and purpose at work to catalyze fulfillment, engagement, and productivity. You can learn more about us and how we can work together at elisecortez.com. With us today is Stephen M.R. Covey, the co-founder and CEO of Covey Link and the Franklin Covey Global Trust Practice. He is the author of the well-known and best-selling book, The Speed of Trust. Sought-after and compelling keynote speaker, author, and advisor on trust, leadership, ethics, culture, and collaboration, Covey speaks to audiences around the world. Today, we'll be talking about his new book, Trust and Inspire, How Truly Great Leaders Unleash Greatness in Others. He joins us today from the Sundance Ski Resort, or near that area in Utah. Stephen, welcome to Working on Purpose. Great to have you.
Hi, great to be with you, Elise. Really delighted, honored to be on the Working on Purpose show. It's exciting.
Thank you. Well, again, I want to point out, look at this gorgeous thing that you created. Look at this thing you brought into the world. I'm so happy to have it and catch it. And I love how you wrote inside my book for me and sent the note. Thank you. That was beautiful. So quintessentially you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. You deserve that kind of respect for what the great work you're doing. I'm inspired by it.
Well, good. We all need that, don't we? We need sources of inspiration in the world. So you can be it for me. Absolutely. And I'll be it for you.
I love
keep
it.
Chugging. All right. Well, this show talks a lot, Stephen, about leadership and the kind of workplace we really want to create. And you do something right out of the gate in your book that I think is really important to situate this conversation for our listeners and viewers. And that is, it seems to me that you've written a book that invites humanity to a higher level of consciousness and makes a really compelling case to permanently leave behind the relics of the command and control leadership style that has so propelled this world of work we live in. So bravo for that. So I think really to open the conversation, let's help our listeners understand so they can contrast what is command and control, what does it look like, and how does it impact the motivation of employees?
Yeah, well, command and control is kind of most of the management that we see today. Most of it is that, and it's not so much kind of the authoritarian command and control, because we kind of advanced from that. It's a more enlightened command and control. It's better. It's more sophisticated, more advanced, but still the paradigm is a little bit around controlling people, containing people, managing people. Even the word manage people.
Right.
And it kind of conveys that people need to be managed. Well, people don't want to be managed; they want to be led. And so it's kind of just the traditional approach to how we do things, and it's about compliance. Mm-hmm. It's about coordination. It's about being associated together. It's about even good things like getting results through people. But in a sense, people are just the means to the end. That you're trying to get results, you do it through people, but you push that to the extreme, you can kind of really use people and use them maybe too much and burn through people. People are just a thing, and so we manage people and so forth. So it's kind of most of traditional management today is coming out of kind of a command and control paradigm, but it has improved in that we brought things like strengths and emotional intelligence and other things to it that makes it better. But our paradigm, our mindset is still kind of into a management mentality, like how we manage things. And we apply that same approach to people. And, even the idea of people are our most important assets. At one level, that's fine because that's a good sentiment. But, if you view people as a thing, even an asset, but a thing, then you're dehumanizing them and you're not seeing their potential, their value, their inherent worth and goodness in and of themselves. They're not just means to an end; they are an end. And so that's the idea that most of the management we see in our world today is probably a version of command and control.
Okay. Well done. So you've situated just kind of what the lay of the land is. Now let's give listeners and viewers a view of what it really could look like. And I think this is, you and I are so aligned on this, Stephen. It's just scary. So I want to read what you've written because it's just so beautiful in how you've conveyed this. So you say, trust and inspire is the new way to lead. Its goal is to unleash people's talent and potential to truly empower and inspire them, rather than to contain and control them. It's about trusting people to do the right thing and inspiring them to make meaningful contributions. It's about connecting with people through caring and belonging so that we and they can successfully respond to our disruptive world. It's about then connecting people to purpose so they feel inspired not only by the organization's leaders, but also by a sense of purpose, meaning, and contribution in their work. That's where we say the heck yes, by the way, kind of thing. Yes, that is exactly it, Stephen. That's the world I want to work in.
And it's the world I want to work in. And I'll bet for our listeners and viewers, it's the world that you want to work in. And, that's where I come back to the idea that people don't want to be managed. People want to be led. They want to be trusted. They want to be inspired. And I'm just trying to kind of name it, label it, not only where we need to move from, which is command and control, but what we need to move toward. I call it trust and inspire. And it's kind of what you just read. So the whole premise is that, yes, I manage things, but I lead people. In the command and control model, you manage people and things similarly. No, trust and inspire, manage things, lead people. In the command and control model, it's about compliance. Trust and inspire, it's about commitment, tapping into the greater sense of commitment that's inside of people. So command and control is very much a motivation approach, carrot and stick. Right. And, does that work? Sure. It motivates people to want to get more rewards and it can move people that way, but you've got to constantly provide more stimulus and more stimuli to throw at it to keep people motivated. Trust and inspire is about inspiration. It's internal, intrinsic. It's inside of people.
Right. To
inspire means to breathe life into. So the whole premise is that there's this fire within that we need to ignite. You're all about this. And when we do that, that can burn on for years, if not, right. Longer, without the constant need to apply this stimuli. So it's about, instead of controlling people, it's about releasing them and right. unleashing their capabilities, their potential, their talent. And maybe the summary would be, if command and control is kind of about getting results through people, which again doesn't sound so bad, except for you're using people as right. a means to an end. Trust and inspire is about getting results. We always have to do that in a way that grows people. People also are an end in and of themselves. You are elevating people to the same status as needing to perform, but people are just as important. It's about their growth, their development, and that's a better way to achieve these results. And so it's just really kind of going to where where leadership needs to go to stay relevant in this new world of work, because the old model, command and control, doesn't work very well with the younger generations, and it doesn't work very well in this new world of work. Right. We need a new way to lead in a new world. I call it trust and inspire.
Well, and I'm fully bought in, because again, you and I could complete each other's sentences. And you would go on to further say, is there a level beyond being engaged? Yes, there is. It's called inspiration. You say inspiration is the new engagement. I completely agree with that. And you have some stats in your book that are that I want to read, but I want to let you respond to this idea of inspiration being the newer, higher level of engagement.
Absolutely. And nothing wrong with engagement. We knew that we still want to become engaged, but there's something beyond it. And that the next frontier of engagement, the new engagement, is to be inspired. And the data is overwhelming on this. Maybe you'll read it, or I can just state it. That
Go for it.
Well, the data shows that, look, an inspired employee, of course, is 125% more productive than a satisfied employee. You probably expect that.
Mm-hmm.
But an inspired employee is also 56% more productive than an engaged employee.
Sounds good to me.
There's another level. And that's just productivity. That's not even dealing with what being inspired does to your energy, to your joy, to your well-being, to your creativity. So, both you get better results, but also you increase the well-being of your people. They thrive more when they're inspired. And it brings out the very best in them. They want to rise to the occasion, and they want to be worthy of this. It's just kind of a virtuous upward spiral. So that's where it's going. It's like the Wayne Gretzky metaphor of what makes you, he was asked, what makes you so good at hockey? He says, I skate to where the puck is going to be, not to where it's been. And I think the puck in leadership is going towards inspiration.
Oh, I completely agree, my friend. I completely agree. And then I want to give this even more stickiness for our listeners and viewers and bring it home, because you talk about how all organizations today have two epic imperatives to achieve, right? One is on the people front, the war for talent, and the other one's in the marketplace. So I want to talk about both of those so they really understand that how what you're talking about helps them win on both fronts.
Absolutely, because I think that this new world that we're in, where everything has changed through technology, the nature of the world itself has changed. The nature of the work itself has changed. It's more collaborative, it's more interdependent, it's more done in teams, more service oriented. The workplace has changed. Work from home, work from anywhere, hybrid work, remote work, intentionally flexible work. The workforce has changed. As many as 5 generations at work.
Right.
And then there's so many choices and options that people have today that maybe they didn't have before. So people have all these options. All this change is saying, look, there's 2 key things for everyone. First, you got to build and create a high trust culture that inspires your people. Why? So that you can attract, retain, engage, and inspire the best people and bring out the best in people. And that way we're gonna win this war for talent, and we'll keep our people, and we'll inspire them and bring out the best in them. That's the first. The second is the need to collaborate and innovate. Why? So that we can stay relevant in this changing, disruptive world where everything is changing around us. We got to change with it. We got to innovate, and then you can't innovate unless you're collaborating. And so that's what's going on externally. So think about these 2 imperatives. First, we've got to win in the workplace. Second, we got to win in the marketplace. I believe this, Elise, the sequence matters. The way that we're going to win in the marketplace externally with our partners and customers and clients is through the collaboration and innovation. That will come about because we're first winning in the workplace with our own people, with our own teams, that we build a high trust culture that truly inspires and brings out the best in people. And when you do that from the inside out, you win with your own people first so you can win in the marketplace second. That's a game changer. And that's how you're going to sustain and stay relevant in this new world of work.
Mm-hmm. And right there, Stephen, what you did is you just helped all of our listeners and viewers understand how to handle the Great Resignation, right? I mean, I know so many leaders are just smarting and aching from this, and they don't know what to do. I really believe, Stephen, that what you're putting forth is the solution.
I do too. I think that because it's all about how are we going to build the kind of culture where people are attracted like a magnet to it, to be part of it. It's because they want to be trusted and they want to be inspired. And when they are, they'll stay and it'll bring out the best in them. When they're not trusted and not inspired, they'll want to go find a place where they are. And they'll leave. And they'll have a variety of reasons for it. But you won't keep them And so this is the solution. It's not just throwing more money. Of course, the money matters, but if you're competitive, you're in the marketplace. People want purpose. People want meaning. People want to make contributions. They want to matter. It's significance. And so that's what Trust and Inspire is all about, tapping into that. And you know this well with your work on purpose, on meaning, on contribution, and what it does to people. That's what's going to keep people more than, more benefits.
Mm-hmm.
That's the ultimate benefit, is to be trusted and to be inspired.
I so agree. And on that note, let's send people into their first break so they can chew on that while we go and get ready for the next segment. I'm your host, Dr. Elise Cortez. We've been on the air with Stephen M.R. Covey, the co-founder and CEO of Covey Link and the Franklin Covey Global Trust Practice. He's the author of Trust and Inspire, How Truly Great Leaders Unleash Greatness in Others. We've been talking a bit about his book and why it's important in solution. After the break, we're going to get more into the deep dive of stewardship. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Dr. Elise Cortez is a management consultant specializing in meaning and purpose, an inspirational speaker and author. She helps companies visioneer for greater purpose among stakeholders and develop purpose-inspired leadership and meaning-infused cultures that elevate fulfillment, performance, and commitment within the workforce. To learn more or to invite Elise to speak to your organization, please visit her at elisecortez.com. Let's talk about how to get your employees working on purpose. This is Working on Purpose with Dr. Elise Cortez. To reach our program today or to open a conversation with Elise, send an email to Elise, A-L-I-S-E, at elisecortez.com. Now, back to Working on Purpose.
Thanks for staying with us. And before we get back to the program, I want to invite you to check out the book that I wrote a couple of years ago, Purpose Ignited. And I really wrote it to awaken readers to their passion and purpose and then start them down the journey of their own inspirational leadership. So I hope you'll check it out. If you're just joining the program, my guest is Stephen M.R. Covey, the author of Speed of Trust and his latest work, Trust and Inspire, How Truly Great Leaders Unleash Greatness in Others, which is what we're discussing today. I'm your host, Dr. Elise Cortez. So since you finished on the last thing about meaning and significance, I speak Spanish and Portuguese, Stephen, because I lived in Spain and Brazil. So I love that meaning in Portuguese and Spanish is significado, and purpose is propósito. And I love that if meaning translates to significance, that's exactly what we're talking about here, Stephen. It's just so incredibly yummy. It's a technical term, I'm sure. So one of the things that you do very distinctly, again, you are the the trust wizard for sure. And what you talk about with regard to stewardship is just really so accessible to me. So you go on to say that a fundamental belief of a trusted and inspired leader is that leadership is stewardship. And then you say, put another way, leaders are stewards. Stewardship is a responsibility that implies the highest level of trust, of being entrusted. When we have a stewardship mindset, we've been given a job to do, and we've been entrusted to see it through. You say, I like to describe stewardship as a job with a trust. Gorgeous.
Well, thank you. No, but if you think about it, the whole idea is that this is, leadership is not about rights. It's about responsibilities that come with leadership. They're part and parcel of leadership. And the best way to really describe it, even better than responsibilities, is stewardship.
Yeah.
And, a job with a trust. When you're in a leadership position and you're leading people, that's a job with a trust, a great trust that's being given to you. And to focus not on rights, but on responsibilities, on how we can be good stewards as leaders of the people that we're entrusted to lead and to care for and to see their potential and to see their possibilities. Because if we don't, who will?
Right.
And, we're leaders and we're stewards, including for the people that we're leading. And when you get that mindset, that paradigm, it kind of changes everything. And we're too much in the command and control mindset of position and even power but it's hierarchical, and I'm a leader, I'm a manager, I'm in charge, and the whole premise is no, leadership is influence, not position. It's moral authority more than formal authority,
Yes.
and it's really stewardship and responsibility more than rights that come along with that, and that's the mindset, and that I think underlies everything else. If your mindset is more of a trust and inspire one versus a hierarchical command and control one, then how you view your job as a leader is completely different. You're a steward, and I like to use the metaphor of also you're a gardener,
Yeah, I love that metaphor. I love it.
a mechanic, a mechanistic thing. No, you're a gardener, and the life and the power is in the seed. You're trying to create the conditions for the seed to flourish and to clear the path and so forth for the seed to flourish. And people are the same way. See, people, the life, the power is in the people. Your job as a gardener is to try to create conditions for the people to grow, to develop, to flourish, and to clear the path for that. And that's quite different than, I'm in charge, I'm the mechanic, and I can't, I'm the one that cranks everything up. No, I create conditions for the growth to take place.
Yes, I love that. And so to help our listeners and viewers inculcate how to start to steer their ship in that direction, what I want to do next is I want to talk about, you have these fundamental beliefs that our listeners and viewers can start to embrace, and then behaviors that go with them. So if you play with me a little bit here, Stephen, I want to serve up the belief first, and then you can add the behavior. Deal?
Beautiful.
So the first belief that you say is people have greatness inside them. So the behavior is?
To unleash their potential, not to try to contain or control them.
Yeah. Can you imagine doing that for people? Listeners and viewers, if you could do that for people, just think about how the change, the impact you can have on people's whole lives. Okay, beautiful. That's the first belief. The second belief
Can I
is,
just make this comment on that one?
yeah, please.
The idea is people have greatness inside of them, not just some, a few.
All,
not
yes,
just
all. Not the
just
high
the
potential.
potentials.
Yes.
Because that implies that everyone else doesn't. It's having
Right.
a growth mindset for everyone.
Yes,
Seeing
Stephen.
the greatness. Because if you don't, as a steward, as a leader, see their greatness, then who will? So you got to see it, communicate it, develop it, and then ultimately unleash it.
Yes, totally agree. In fact, I talk about that whole idea of get rid of your high potential programs in the next book that I'm writing. So I'm completely with you on that. All right. So belief number 2 is people are whole people. So
my job as a leader is to inspire, not merely motivate. See, if people were just economic beings only, just financial creatures, then motivation would be sufficient. Yeah, they're financial beings, so we just provided a carrot and stick reward system. But people are more than just economic beings. They're whole people.
yes,
Body,
yes,
heart, mind, spirit. So in that case, as a whole person, my job as a leader becomes, I need to inspire, not merely motivate.
yes.
I need to breathe life into, not to suck the life out of, and in the other. And so inspiration versus motivation. That's the idea. That's your responsibility, your stewardship as a leader, when you see people as whole people.
And that takes us to our next beliefs. Leadership is stewardship. So
my job as a leader is to put service above self-interest. Self-interest will take care of itself. If our whole mindset is to serve, and what's in it for me, but how can I best serve? Not how can I most impress, but how can I most bless? So the idea of service above self-interest. That's a stewardship paradigm in and of itself.
I like it. Okay. And then the last belief is enduring influence is created from the inside out. So
my job as a leader is to go first. Someone needs to go first. Leaders go first. If it's inside out, if it's a ripple effect, then we need to be the one that goes first. So if we want more respect in our workplace, then be the first to demonstrate and show respect. We want more openness, more transparency, then be the one, the model, transparency and openness and vulnerability. We want more straight talk, then talk straight first. And if we want more trust, then be the first to extend trust, to give it, and so forth. So leaders go first. That's the whole idea of inside out. You're not waiting on anyone else. You're modeling it. You're going first.
Hmm. I had a note in here, Stephen. This is just, I could talk with you for hours, but I have a note in here that I also wanted to say. Just, I personally have been completely, my life has been altered by having a leader that could see more in me than I could see in myself, more than my parents could see in me in potential, which is what we're talking about, right? This whole idea of you're actually out to be able to nurture that seed, create those conditions for it to grow. And you talk a lot about potential and about capability and imagine, ladies and gentlemen who are listening and watching this, if you literally saw your people as a sea of potential, not human resources, but a sea of potential, how would that change your leadership? Just amazing. So,
That's beautiful. Thanks for sharing that, Elise. Because think of this leader that you've had in your life that saw your potential even better than you did. But my guess is that they also not only saw it, but they communicated it to you
you did.
in such a way that you came to see it in yourself. And you could see it because of how they communicated what you could do, your talent, your potential. They saw it, they communicated it to you, you began to see it. They probably also helped you develop it and helped you apply it and unleash it. That's real leadership, seeing and
Mhm.
communicating and developing people's potential so clearly that they come to see it themselves.
It fundamentally changed my life, Stephen. He saved my life. I'm telling you twice by first giving me the job that he gave me in the first place, and then having me move on because he said, you can do so much more than you're doing here. You have to
Wow.
go.
Wow.
That was amazing. And that was 35 years ago.
That was 35 years. That's a trust and inspire leader. And it's impacted your life. And look at all the lives you're impacting from that.
Oh, I shudder to think what my life would be like if he hadn't uttered the words that he did to me, Stephen, and helped me grow the way that he did. And we stayed in touch all these years since. He's meant that much to me.
That's beautiful and powerful. In fact, I would say this, Elise, for each of our listeners or viewers, do you have such a person in your life? A person who believed in you, who had confidence in you, who took a chance on you. Maybe they believed in you more than you believed in yourself at the time, like with you, Elise. And I've had a similar thing in my life. If with such a person, that's a trust inspired leader in your life that you've maybe had, to our listeners and viewers, what did that do to you? How did it make you feel? And how did you see yourself, and do you see yourself now differently because of that person?
Mm.
And the one thing I would ask is to say, let's pay it forward now. What
Yes.
if we could become that kind of leader for someone else, just like someone was for us? What might that do? Because isn't this what we all want?
Yes, it is. We all want to matter desperately. And to that end, you do something so beautifully in the book, Stephen. In fact, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm kicking off a leadership session here in Dallas for a local company, and I'm going to be sharing this very thing.
Oh,
I already shared it with the leaders, and they said it gave them goosebumps. So let's give our listeners and viewers goosebumps too,
I
because
love
they're
it.
lovely and great. So you share in the book about your experience of what you learned when working with the top management team at the largest public utility in a foreign country. And you say at the conclusion of your session together, the CEO of the company stood up and addressed each and every one of his direct reports one by one. Would you tell us what this person did and why it was so effective?
Absolutely. Well, again, this context, there's about 150 people representing the senior management. And so he got up in front of the senior management team, and he had his executive team there, probably 10 people. And he said, this has been a great session talking about trust and inspire. I want to say something. And then he turned to each direct report, looked at them right in the eye, and he said, John, I trust you. And here is why I trust you. And then he would describe John's strengths and things that he had, his talents, and why he could trust. It was very personalized for everyone. That is why I trust you. And then he said, Susan, I trust you. And here is why I trust you. And then he would describe Susan's unique strengths, talents, and and it wasn't a generic thing. It was very personalized to each person as to why he had trust and confidence in that person. He did this with all 10 direct reports, one by one, in front of the 150 people there. And this is the type of thing that if it weren't sincere, it wouldn't have come across as well. And if it weren't personal and real, if it was just generic, it wouldn't have had the same power. But because it was genuinely from his heart and it was personal, he not only said that he trusted people. He said why he trusted them, and people
Right.
could feel it, and they all felt it. And they began to have even greater confidence in themselves because of the confidence and the trust he had in them and why he had it in them. So it's not enough just to trust our people. We need to trust them and tell them that we trust them and tell them why we trust them. Both of those dimensions are game changers of what it does to people.
That was exactly the word I was going to use, Stephen. Game changer. Imagine, ladies and gentlemen, if you do even a fraction of this, of course, we want you to do the whole thing. Think about this is how you're going to change the lives and change the direction of your company. So it's just so exciting. And then that brings me to this next piece that I want to talk about before we go on to the next segment here is, are you in your belief that there is enough for everyone? That's one of the beliefs that you're putting forth. You talk about an abundance mentality flows out of a deep inner sense of personal worth and security. It leads to a natural desire to elevate caring above competing because that's simply being true to our beliefs. Of course, we want to win, but because we care about others, we want them to win too. And rather than compete with each other, we complete each other and together become a complementary team. Yes, amen.
Absolutely. This is again a paradigm of a trust-inspired leader that, yes, let's compete in the marketplace, but let's collaborate and have caring in the workplace. Why? Because there's enough for everyone. And that's the abundance mentality. But we're deeply scripted in scarcity. And
Yes.
scarcity might be sound economic theory, but it is lousy leadership theory.
Yes.
There's enough of everything good. There's enough for everyone. There's enough love, enough caring, enough empathy, enough compassion, enough creativity, enough innovation, enough respect, enough trust, enough recognition, enough purpose and meaning, enough contribution, enough significance for everyone. And so of everything good, there's enough. And it's a better way to view people and things with an abundance mindset, not a scarcity mindset. And therefore you do elevate that caring above competing. Yeah, let's compete in the marketplace. Let's care and collaborate in the workplace. Such a better way to lead.
Sounds good to me, Stephen. You got me anyway convinced.
All right.
Let's grab our next break. I'm your host, Elise Cortez. We've been on the air with Stephen M.R. Covey, the co-founder and CEO of Covey Link and the Franklin Covey Global Trust Practice. He's the author of Trust and Inspire, How Truly Great Leaders Unleash Greatness in Others. We've been talking a bit about how to inculcate the beliefs of his work. After the break, we're going to talk about how you can start to use this stuff in your hybrid and remote policy to really make a difference. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Dr. Elise Cortez is a management consultant specializing in meaning and purpose, an inspirational speaker and author. She helps companies visioneer for greater purpose among stakeholders and develop purpose-inspired leadership and meaning-infused cultures that elevate fulfillment, performance, and commitment within the workforce. To learn more or to invite Elise to speak to your organization, please visit her at elisecortez.com. Let's talk about how to get your employees working on purpose. This is Working on Purpose with Dr. Elise Cortez. To reach our program today or to open a conversation with Elise, send an email to Elise, A-L-I-S-E, at elisecortez.com. Now, back to Working on Purpose.
Thanks for staying with us and welcome back to Working on Purpose. One other announcement that I want to share with you is last August, my second book came out called Passionately Striving and Why. And why that's interesting to me is I literally scouted the globe and found 25 women from Australia to Zambia to share their very personal, intimate stories of how they discovered their purpose and are now serving from it. So it's one part education and one part inspiration. So I hope you'll check that out. If you're just joining us today, my guest is Stephen M.R. Covey, the author of Speed of Trust, and his latest work, Trust and Inspire, How Truly Great Leaders Unleash Greatness in Others, which we're discussing today. I'm your host, Dr. Elise Cortez. So this next bit here, Stephen, is so critically important, working with organizations, and I know how reticent they are to be able to extend trust. That's, I know, one of your 13 principles. And so I wanted to start this segment with this notion, this kicker that you say in your book. You say, in my experience, our most significant challenge is not a lack of trustworthy people. The biggest challenge is trustworthy people who do not extend trust to other trustworthy people.
Absolutely. And, and you think about it, you could have two trustworthy people working together, both trustworthy, and yet no trust between them, even though they're both trustworthy, if neither person is willing to extend it to the other. And I find that, this is a stewardship to be trusting. Because if we want to have trust, if we want to build a high trust team, a high trust culture, yes, we need to be trustworthy. And I call that modeling. That's the first stewardship. But we also need to be trusting as leaders, extending that trust, giving the trust, trusting more and more frequently, more abundantly, so that that people can run with that trust being given appropriately, rise to the occasion, perform better, develop capabilities, and give it back to you. They reciprocate the trust. When we don't trust people, they tend to not trust us back. When we do trust them, they reciprocate, return the trust, and they perform better. And so I believe it's actually a stewardship we have as a leaders to trust people, to trust our team, not blindly. I'm not saying a blind trust that's indiscriminate, without expectations, without accountability. No, a smart trust with agreed upon expectations and accountability that we create together. We build an agreement together around the trust being given with expectations and accountability. But then you do that well, then you don't need to hover over and micromanage people. The agreement governs, and they have the agreement that everyone's clear on what we're trying to do and the results, the outcomes, and how to be accountable to it. So it's a smart trust, but it's one that dignifies people and lets them run with their capabilities and their talents and brings out the best in them, and they don't feel micromanaged. And too often feel like people feel like they're being hovered over, and that they're not being trusted enough. So we need to have more trust, extend more trust, be trusting, and the key to that is that let's also build the agreement of around the trust being extended with expectations and accountability. And then we can all become a little bit more trusting than we might have thought.
Mm-hmm. Have to build a system. So I really wanted to talk about this, Stephen, in terms of it. True, you give two really, really profound examples in your book. Right now, as you know, so many organizations are struggling with, hey, how do I get people to want to come back to the office? How do I handle a hybrid or a remote work sort of setup? And the thing that I've discovered, which you probably won't be surprised, I think what's underneath all of that reluctance is a lack of trust, right? They don't trust that their employees are going to do their work if they don't have their eyeballs on them and they're not watching them. So you give two really powerful examples in your book, and I want to talk about both of them because I think listeners and viewers, there's something in this for you that you can borrow and develop for yourself. So, this first thing here is from Siemens. If we could talk about that one first, what they're positioning out there for how they get their work done. If we could talk about that, and we'll talk about the second one afterwards.
Yeah. So Siemens, huge, conglomerate out of Germany, 400,000 plus people. And they, in the midst of this pandemic, they came out with their approach towards work. And they said, look, this is going to outlive the pandemic. That they basically said, this is Roland Bush. He said, we trust our people and we empower them to know how to go about doing this. And so they can figure out how to come up with when they should be in the office, when they can work away from the office, and that they would expect that they're going to do a lot of work outside of the office as a matter of course, not just during the pandemic, but beyond. But the whole premise is we trust you to know where best you can do this work. And so it was an extraordinary declaration of trust to their people, not just a policy around remote work, but a declaration of trust that we have in you, our people, that you will use good judgment and you know best where and how to do this work. And this is an ongoing policy, not just a pandemic policy of how to do this. It was really quite remarkable and inspiring. And more than anything, the people felt trusted, and that's what you want is this other to your point that you mentioned, Elise, that for many organizations, no matter they might not say it out loud, But for many, there is a trust question.
Yes.
How do I know they're working? And here's one indicator of that. So-called productivity software, which is really in many cases looks and feels like surveillance software.
Yes.
Your keystrokes are being tracked, has gone up 300% plus during this pandemic. 3 times more. Sell of it, because people might not quite they're not quite trusting that you're doing the right thing and really working and doing these things. But does that come through to people? Absolutely it does. When they feel like that they're being hovered over and watched and big brothered and there's surveillance everywhere, that just screams distrust. Whereas Siemens saying, here's our policy, you can work, you choose how to do it. Yes, we expect you're going to be working from home or from anywhere, and we trust you. And this goes beyond the pandemic. And they went on to say, this is a new style of leadership. It's going to focus on results and outcomes, not on just where you're doing it.
Yeah.
Right. Not on the methods.
So let me give just a couple of details for our listeners viewers so they really bring this home for themselves. So you say in the book here that what Siemens is calling this is their mobile working policy that they developed in the middle of the pandemic, and they call it the new normal working model. And the policy read, we treat our employees and empower them to shape their work themselves so that they can achieve the best results possible. Wow.
Yeah. It actually says we trust our employees.
Yes.
To, and empower them to shape the work themselves so that they can achieve the best result possible. That's trust on at least 2 levels. One is that we trust you to, work from wherever, but we also trust you that you know how to best do this work.
Wow.
And so it's not that we trust you to work from home. We trust you to know how to best do the work, shape the work to get the best results possible. So that's double trust. That we trust you to work from home, and we trust you to figure out how best to do the work.
Mm-hmm. And let's talk about the scale. You said 400,000 employees, and you say this is mind-boggling for you, for you, ladies and gentlemen, who are doubting, could this work for my organization? He says, under the permanent plan and effective immediately, employees in more than 125 locations in 43 countries will be able to work from wherever they are most productive for an average of 2 to 3 days a week.
Absolutely. Think about that. 43 countries, 125 locations, effective immediately. Use your good judgment. We trust you and empower you to shape the work to achieve the best outcomes. And, usually the bigger you get, you have a harder time coming up with such a policy like this. It's more than a policy. It's a philosophy. It's a paradigm. It's an approach to leadership. It's trust and inspire that you're going to do this in all these different sites effective immediately. That's an extraordinary declaration of trust. That's being trusting. That's taking that stewardship and really running with it at that kind of scale. That's rare.
It is. And it's an example for all of us. It's an inspiration for all of us, beacon call for all of us. And then there's one more. Wait, there's more, right? Why stop there? Because we have Mary Barra, who is the chair and CEO of General Motors, having something similar that you talk about in the book. Tell us about that.
Yeah, she calls it the work appropriately policy. And the whole premise is that, look, where work permits, if you're working on the manufacturing line, building a car, it might be that work doesn't permit you to do that from home. You got to be there. But where work permits, employees, you have the flexibility to work where you believe you can have the greatest impact on achieving our goals. And so where it's possible, you have the flexibility to do that where you think you can best achieve the goals. And then she backed up and gave the why behind it. The notion behind this approach that you know better than we do. That we basically, the notion is that we trust you, that you're smart, you know how to do the work, and you can do it better than we would do to just dictate how you would do it. That we have that trust and confidence in you. You're smart. You don't need all these overly prescriptive guidelines and dictation of do it this way. No, we trust you. You're smart. You use good judgment. And it just conveys volumes to people. So again, I come back to, it's not just the policy of work from home, perhaps, or work remotely, or a hybrid or a combination. It's the mindset behind it of that you'll do the right thing and you know how best to have impact on the work that you're doing. And we believe in you, and that you'll not only do the work, but you'll know the best place to do the work. And we trust that and believe that kind of communication comes through.
And it goes back to that word you used before, game changer. This is game changer leadership. So then you go on, you mentioned this at the very beginning, Stephen, this is so important. Now, here we are in this great resignation. People are pulling their hair out, like, what do I do? And now we've got more Gen Ys, the millennials, and the Gen Zs coming in. And so what you say in your book, which I really wanted to bring home here about this example here, is you say, how much more attractive does these policies make Siemens and GM to a younger employee looking for a place to take his or her talents? Such trusting policies based on the fundamental beliefs of trust and inspired leaders are differentiators, especially when contrasted to the excessive verification and surveillance style practices of some organizations where their people who are now working from home often feel they're just being micromanaged from a distance. Big difference.
Big difference. In fact, maybe I should have not used the word differentiator and called it they're game changers, like we've been saying.
Next edition, Stephen.
Yeah, it is a differentiator, but at a profound level. What a difference to say, I'm going to work for this company. And you know what? They trust me. And I feel trusted, because people don't want to be managed. People want to be led. They want to be trusted. They want to be inspired. Such a better way to lead. Trust and inspired leadership is so relevant for our world today, to win that war for talent, to attract, retain, engage, and inspire the best people and bring out the best in the people. This is a better way to lead.
I agree. And of course, I can't let you get off the show without talking about your third stewardship practice, inspiring and connecting to why, because purpose is my game. So talk to us a bit about that, Stephen.
Yeah, this is your world here so well. So I'm saying, look, inspiring others is a learnable skill. It's not just for the charismatic. Everyone can inspire. We've too often conflated inspiration with charisma as if they're the same. They're not.
Right.
Everyone can inspire. It's learnable. How do you inspire? Well, you inspire when you connect with people. You inspire also when you connect to purpose. Let me just describe each quickly. Connect with people through caring and through belonging. So you demonstrate the care that you have. The expression that we all know, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. What caring does to people and how they feel that way. And like Maya Angelou said, people will forget what you said, they'll forget what you did, but they won't forget how you made them feel.
Right.
And how you feel is through the caring and through the sense of belonging. I belong, I'm part of this. My identity is tied to this team. At least part of it is. I belong to something. That inspires. So caring inspires. And in a sense of belonging, but you also inspire when you connect people to purpose, to meaning, to contribution, a big part of what you're doing. It's all about saying it matters, and we're trying to show how the work that we're doing matters and the difference that it's making matters. And my premise is this, is that you can create and embed purpose, meaning, and contribution into almost any role, into almost any organization. Now, with some you might have to be more creative, but you think about it, if I work at St. Jude Children's Medical Center, I've got a lot of purpose right there in front of me,
Right.
Curing childhood cancer. That's inspiring. But Johnsonville sausage, they're making sausage. But Ralph Steyer, their founder, he said, look, some organizations have people to build their business. We use our business to build our people. They've kind of inverted that they're tapping into purpose through what they're doing to develop their people. So there's lots of ways we can do this. And this is a lot of the work that you do, but you can create and embed purpose, meaning, and contribution into almost any job, into almost any organization. I was with Pepperdine University, big university. They have a business school, the Graziano School of Business. Here's their purpose. They say, we're not about developing leaders who are best in the world. We are about developing leaders who are best for the world. Best
Big
for the
distinction.
world leaders. Look at that. Look what that does. If I'm a professor there, if I'm a staff member, if I'm a janitor there, what are we about? Producing best for the world leaders. Wow, that inspires. And so you're trying to overlap the individual purpose that people have and the organizational purpose, and that there's a fire in that overlap, and to show that this is all about making a difference, about mattering. Life is about contribution, not accumulation. We're trying to tap into that. So how do you do it? You connect with people through caring and belonging, and then you connect people to purpose, to meaning, to contribution, your whole work that you do so brilliantly, Elise. So this is what it's about. This is how we're going to inspire. And the point is, everyone can inspire. It's a learnable skill. And not only is it a learnable skill, it is a stewardship that we have as leaders to inspire our people.
Oh, what a fantastic way to close, Stephen. I'm so happy to have you on the show and share with my listeners across the world. You are a gift, and I'm so happy to know you. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much. Love being here.
Listeners and viewers, if you want to learn more about this amazing man, Stephen M.R. Covey, the work he and his team are doing at Covey Link and the Franklin Covey Global Trust Practice, or checking out his books, best place to start is trustandinspire.com. Last week, if you missed the live show, you can always catch it via recorded podcast. We were on the air had a special conversation with Bill George, the co-author of True North Emerging Leader Edition, talking about the leadership concepts in his book and his own many years of executive level leadership and what they taught him. Next week, we'll be on the air with Jeff Rabith, the vice president of Paravita's Thought Ensemble, talking about his perspective on how the Great Resignation presents a valuable opportunity for leaders to strategically gain and develop talent. We'll be talking about how leaders can approach talent development in a way that prioritizes employee goals and maximizes their skills long term. See you there. Remember that work is at least a third of our lives. It's a very integral and important part of how we are, and can be one of the best adventures and means of realizing our potential and making the impact we so crave. So let's work on purpose.
We hope you've enjoyed this week's program. Be sure to tune into Working on Purpose, featuring your host, Dr. Elise Cortez, each week on W4CY. Together, we'll create a world where business operates conscientiously, leadership inspires impassioned performance, and employees are fulfilled in work that provides the meaning and purpose they crave. See you there. Let's work on purpose.